Nigerian judiciary has been in the spotlight the past few days, largely because of the ordeal of human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi, who has been in detention the past few weeks for an offense that no longer exists in Ekiti State. But nevertheless, the magistrate court is still keeping him in prison, while the main character in the book he wrote, Nigeria and its criminal justice system, has now sued him for more than 6 times. 2 of the lawsuits are criminal in nature. Of course, the IG is the one suing him on behalf of the main character, and one wonders why they keep suing him in different courts across the country. The same offense, the same defamation, the same civil claims, but they keep suing him in multiple courts, in Lagos, in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, Ibadan, and now in Abeokuta, Ogun State. And because of the awareness Dele Farotimi created with his book, coupled with his current ordeal, many Nigerians are now willing more than ever to openly discuss the issue of corruption in Nigerian judiciary. Before, the subject was seen as a taboo. All the lawyers and all players benefiting from the corrupt system would always hound people who discuss such things in the public, just like they are now threatening Dele Farotimi's lawyers with violence. In fact, they are being hounded right now so that they can be able to pervert justice. There's no other reason to continue to threaten lawyers when you are already in court. You are seeking for redress in court. You say that someone defamed you. You have filed several cases across the country. They are detaining him illegally, and on top of all that, they are still threatening his lawyers. It can't be real. It can only happen in Nigeria under a corrupt criminal justice system. So there's no doubt that the issue is now in the public discourse. Just like this lawyer who is about to retire, Biodun, he wants to write his memoir, and he's seeking contributions from fellow lawyers to submit their experiences to him anonymously so that he can publish them. He also explained that some lawyers accused him of trying to destroy the judiciary and the legal profession. We'll come back to that in a moment. Now, let's get to the main subject. The young man that is trending in Osun State that was sentenced to death on appeal. He was initially sentenced to death 10 years ago when he was 17 years. Yes, according to Nigerian law, the penalty for armed robbery is death. Despite that, there is something called proportionality in law. When judicial officers apply the law against a crime that was committed by someone, they should always gauge the proportionality of the crime and the gravity of the crime. The law is not absolute. Now, a little history about how Nigeria made armed robbery a capital offense. It was actually under the military regime. It was after the Civil War. There was proliferation of arms, which is normal in a country that just came out of civil war. So they made it a capital offense in order to dissuade people from committing crimes. A petty robbery can go south. It can quickly turn violent and someone will lose his life just because of food or something they want to steal from the person. So it was a mess. But it didn't still stop notorious criminals from operating, even robbing banks at the time, attacking policemen and all sorts of crimes. In the 70s, we had the likes of Oyenusi. Then in the 80s, we had Anene and Mondo Sumbo, who was a police officer at the time. So despite the fact that armed robbery is a capital offense, it still has not dissuaded people from robbing people with arms or kidnapping them. It was actually very recently that many states started making kidnapping a capital offense. Now, back to the young man Segun who was sentenced to death on appeal. Of course, Governor Adeleke of Osun State has already intervened. He released a statement on his verified X handle saying that he has told the Commissioner of Justice and Attorney General of Osun State to investigate the matter so that they can grant the young man pardon. Yes, that's very commendable. But it takes a very mean and wicked lawyer and lawyers in the Directorate of Public Prosecution to charge a young man, a minor at the time, a 70-year-old person that stole chicken in a poultry farm, whether he was armed with a gun or a machete. How can they charge him for armed robbery and they even sought the death penalty for someone that stole chicken? It also takes a very mean and wicked judge to sentence a minor to death for stealing chicken. What's the worth of a chicken? Is it comparable to human life? The whole thing negates the reason armed robbery was made a capital offense in the first place. How can they sentence someone who stole a chicken, whether he was armed with an AK-47 or not? It doesn't make any sense. Their sole reason for making armed robbery a capital offense in the 70s was to save Nigerian lives, human lives, not the life of a chicken or other animals. So you can see how judicial officers apply the law in Nigeria. Even people who are found guilty of manslaughter, they still don't get to visit the hangman. It's not a capital offense, despite the fact that an actual life was lost. How much more a chicken? When the young man was sentenced by the first court, he didn't get a lot of publicity. But today, thanks to social media, it has gone viral. Of course, that was why the governor saw it and intervened. And his parents have been in the news. They've been talking about this, granting interviews, talking about their trauma, what they've gone through, trying to save their son. So it just shows that these judicial officers have no human feeling. Not that they should be granting amnesty or not giving commensurate sentences, but in this case, we are talking about a chicken here, not a human. Even if the young man came there armed and forced the people out, maybe because he barged into the poultry farm and people ran away for their lives out of fear and he stole the chicken and left, it still doesn't mean that he should be sentenced to death. When will they actually start sentencing people who indirectly kill Nigerians to death? Yes, you will see a politician stealing more than 100 billion naira only for himself, an amount of money that if he starts spending 1 million naira per day, he will not be able to finish all these billions in more than 200 years. When will a judge wake up and say, no, I will sentence you to death? This is above stealing. One person cannot steal more than 100 billion. You see, these are where they need to apply the law to its limit. That's if the law says that this is a penalty. If someone steals in office, a corrupt politician stole money, he is found guilty, that the penalty is 20 years in prison. A judge should be able to increase that penalty. He can say, okay, since you stole this one, you stole that one, and total about 120 billion naira, only you, I will sentence you to 100 years. This is the kind of thing they should be doing, because what these people do, if you check all the chain reaction, someone that needs medical care because a politician has stolen the money. Imagine an accident victim that needs emergency care. He's bleeding, he wants that care immediately because the service is not there, which of course the governor was supposed to provide. Maybe it was even included in the budget, but they didn't execute the project, he stole the money. That person might lose his life as a result. So it's still the fault of the politician who stole the money that was meant to provide emergency health care to a citizen. This is where they are supposed to apply the law to the limit. Now, back to the lawyer, Biodun Tubuyele, who is about to retire after spending 45 years as a lawyer. He shared this on his Facebook page. I shared a post about corruption in the Nigerian judiciary, which I intend to reveal in my memoir. A lawyer said that I want to destroy the judiciary and the legal profession. Why would I want to be a destroyer? I am turning 70 and 45 years at the Nigerian bar. If I cannot speak the truth now, then I have failed myself, my family, and members of the honorable profession. Please, if you have something to say about corruption in the profession and in the judiciary, send your short contribution to me. Avoid mentioning names. You must mention your name. Join my memoir WhatsApp group. So as you can see, people are getting tired of the shameless corruption that goes on. In other crimes, a lawyer can always determine if he will win a case, how a judge will interpret the law, because the law is written in black and white and plain English. There's no maneuvering, there's no technicality trying to say that something that is white has suddenly become black. That's the story of Nigerian judiciary, where someone who didn't contest a primary election in his party suddenly wins the election. That's from the Supreme Court. Where someone that came forth in an election suddenly becomes the winner. So any magic, any abracadabra is possible in Nigeria. They will tell you, I know the law to quote, I know the technicality, I will do it for you. Even a senator openly confessed, whether he was hypnotized the day he said it, he confessed on the Senate floor that he helped many of his colleagues to obtain judgment through his wife. His wife was still at the appeal court at the time. So this is the Nigeria we have to live with, where the innocent is afraid of justice because you know you cannot get it, except maybe you pass something under the table. Even at that, it is for the highest bidder. If the person that accused you has more money than you, he has more influence than you, you are going nowhere. You can never get justice. Just like what is happening to Dele Farotimi, they are charging him in multiple courts for the same crime. How is that possible? How is this allowed? You accuse someone of doing something, one court should be enough. And the worst of all that is happening is that they made sure that he is in prison. He cannot even run around to defend himself. Maybe before they release him, they will secure judgments behind him. Someone that is in prison for a non-existent crime. It's such a disgrace that Nigerians will be dealing with such things in 2024. When other people are talking about going to the moon, sending people to live in Mars, a whole other things they are doing with technology, doing with social media, we are here stuck in the 18th century with 16th century reasoning. It's just so heartbreaking.